Great. Welcome everyone who's joining. Going to give folks a few moments to join, and then we'll do a quick introduction. All right, looks like we've got a good amount of people jumping in. So thank you everyone for joining us today for this presentation presented by the team at Monarch Metal. We've got Brent Meyers on today, who's going to be giving today's CEU course. And then we also have Aaron and Jared from the Monarch team who are here to help answer any of the questions that you might have. So please feel free to submit any questions throughout today's presentation to the Q&A. We've got some folks who will be keeping an eye on those, and we should be able to get to some of those live towards the end of the webinar. All right, before we start off, I'm just going to give a quick little introduction about Acelab. We're helping out with hosting today's event and give you guys some information about what to do after today's webinar if you're looking for some more information. So I'm going to take over screen share for a moment, Brent. Awesome. All right, so anyone who signs up for Acelab webinars has a free Acelab account made for them. I'll drop my colleague's meeting link in the chat momentarily if you're interested in signing up for some time to learn more. Today, just want to show you a few quick things. So if after today's webinar, you want to learn some more about Monarch, find out more about their products, save them to your projects, you can always use the search bar at the top, type in the name of any manufacturer, any product. That'll cross-search between all of our resources, and you can head over to view their page on Acelab. I'll share a link to this in the chat as well so that it's super accessible for you guys. Here you can get in touch with their team directly, explore some more information about their company, watch some great videos, and scrolling down here, you can view all of their products, save them to your projects, and open up any one of these product pages to access downloads, additional product details, all of that good stuff. So this is a great place to come after today's webinar if you want to learn some more. And last thing I would love to show you today is if you let us know that you're interested in getting connected with the Monarch team, we'll go ahead and create a conversation for you on your account. Your conversations can be found over here in the top right, just by clicking this little conversation icon. You're also going to receive an email about any new messages. You can reply directly to those, so you don't need to open Acelab's platform to respond. You can do that through email as well. But this is a great place to come and keep all of your collaboration and your product research organized in one system. So if you're interested in getting some help with setup with this, I'll send over a link to schedule a demo. That'll also allow you to gain some access to some of our early tools. This is available for beta users. If you want to get set up with our new schedules tool, we're happy to help you do that. And this is really just a great place to store all of your product information, store your rep information, pull in data from Acelab, pull in your custom data, and keep your product library super organized. All right. Last thing from me, just some housekeeping items. Today is an AIA-approved event. We did ask for AIA numbers upon registration. We'll also send over a form in the chat momentarily where you'll be able to submit that information to us. And last thing, just a reminder, please feel free to submit questions throughout. You can use the Q&A box to do that. We'll keep an eye on those, and we'll have some time to get to some of those questions live. All right, that takes care of it for me. Brent, whenever you're ready, feel free to go ahead and get started.
Sounds good, Bo. Bo, that was a great introduction there. And first off, I want to thank you for having myself and the Monarch team have the ability to get in front of your members of Acelab there and share a little bit more about not only our engineered hanging systems and architectural metals, but get into the meat and potatoes of the fundamental applications of modern interior wall systems. So today's presentation is a registered course for AIA continuing education. Bo is going to be handling all of your certificates there, as he mentioned. So don't need to go through how that's done and how you're communicating your AIA numbers to ensure that your certificates have been taken care of. Bo is going to get you guys handled, do an excellent job with that process himself. So this presentation here is property of Monarch Metals and protected by U.S. international copyright laws. Any reproduction, distribution, display, and use of the presentation without written permission of the speaker is prohibited there. So if there is any question, please feel free to get back in contact with me. As for today's learning objectives, take a look at the history and development of interior wall partitions and their common uses. Look at some of the design constraints, structural capabilities, and application methods, while considering the options that are available, the multitude of options that are available when choosing an interior wall system, along with its framing components, while distinguishing how these design choices affect the impact, character, and performance of our spaces while keeping sustainability objectives in mind. If you don't mind, throughout this presentation, I'll be highlighting some thoughts that come to mind and asking some open-ended questions. No need to respond to those. It's just to get your thought going and how to apply some of these criteria when designing your future projects. For today's agenda, we'll be looking into how to specify structural and non-structural framing systems. What are the components of the drawings? What are the components of the assembly here? And how can we best provide resources to the plans? Some of the factors influencing the choice of wall type depend on the architectural design, its material availability, as well as its cost, various climate or environmental factors, as well as considerations of building code, regulations, and any of your functional requirements or aesthetic preferences. When looking to the history and development, we'll take a look at the beginning form here. What we're looking at is the Lascaux, which is located in France. A neat little history to dig into with this wall as the beginning form. These networks of caves are located near the village of Montignac. If I pronounced that right there, never had much French in my training, but I did as best I could with that one. Really helps provide a glimpse into the past use of partitions as well as your artistic features of the interiors there. We'll also explore the different interior wall partitions commonly available. Here we're seeing that walls must be placed on solid ground or require foundations as well as footings, which is an excellent place to start our discussion on how walls work in general. So we'll take a look back to the 19th century. In 1875, the Public Health Act was introduced. It required urban authorities to make bylaws for new streets while ensuring the structural stability of houses and preventing fires, and to provide for the drainage of buildings while provisioning for the airspace around the buildings. 1878 provided a little bit more detail with regard to house foundations and the different wall types. The local government board that was established in 1871 introduced the first model bylaws. Within those bylaws are by, which is Old Danish, meaning local. It gave regard to foundations, where it stated that walls should have stepped footings twice the width of the wall, and implied that a 9-inch concrete slab should be placed under the footings unless the subsoil was gravel or rock, otherwise known as solid ground. Some textbooks of the time suggested that the Portland Cement Company made the best concrete, although hydraulic lime was the next best thing, or common lime with a approximate mix of 1 cement, 1 sand to 4/5 stones was recommended. One of the drawings below there shows a section of a proposed house, and you'll see how the main walls have brook footings with the concrete below. While looking at these foundations here and referencing the different types of soils that were utilized, helps us understand the historical background that's being set up, where these walls and buildings were falling down, and they were trying to figure out, why was this happening? Well, people were building outside and inside walls on things that were not used to being supported. Since there's fundamental things that are happening with the structure of every wall, they all need some type of support. If you're going taller with the walls, then you're going to have to get wider at the base there. These foundation systems have come to be an excellent balance of how they work, and you see how they haven't how there haven't been many changes in well over 100 years. Some more on the history and development, observing some of the common wall types here. As wall types have developed, so too has many of the necessity for privacy, insulation, sound isolation that we'll get into some more of, digging into your different testing for sound isolation there. Moisture prevention will be considered, as well as structural stability and other countless client needs based on the programming for the architectural design and what is desired by the client. So as time progressed, many of these needs have been and continue to challenge the industry to develop alternative solutions to the ever-changing design requirements. How do exterior walls and their assemblies change, and how do we design to have interior walls that work? Looking to the essential function of the walls there, you'll see that walls are basically in two categories, exterior and interior, and their function can either be load-bearing or non-load-bearing. As we see in this table here, they each have their own specific function. All walls are often referred to as partitions. However, due to their specific nature and the function of the wall assembly system, this becomes an important distinction to make when properly addressing their programmatic needs, the design challenges, as well as the proposed solutions. Note here that the non-structural nature of the interior non-load-bearing walls is in the fourth column to the right. We'll also note the interior partition to the right carrying no weight other than its own dead load or a non-load bearing wall condition. You'll see that these walls here are only supporting their own weight and serve as a primary room dividers. So what do your common framing styles look like? Wall styles are left only to the imagination and the details. And the various examples that are shown here will distinguish between the wall construction, ranging in scale, their technical execution, some of the finishes, and the functions of the designs themselves. As time went on in the industry, the artistry and the craft was becoming long forgotten. Design flexibility is there, but the work to achieve the look is often considerable. We've got some images here showing a demountable wall. As you'll see, it requires no foundation, and it's also known as a movable wall because it's not connected by the foundation at all. Bringing our focus to the many different interior wall types, we'll notice the finishes that are available or nearly finished examples of plaster, gypsum wallboard, then prepared with a couple coats of spackled and taping your joints. You've got glass wall applications and modular or unitized construction, as well as even demountable systems that can be removed and reinstalled into a variety of different configurations based on the current and future needs of the business. More about the demountable wall system, more of an interior wall design than a structural thing. You've got a head and a foot to this, but it is temporary. There's no rating, as I mentioned, for these systems, as it's not movable unless there's an alternative structural support, such as a large beam that's either supported by posts and put in its place. Removing any load-bearing walls may require additional permitting or structural engineering approvals. When working with the framing system that's behind the panel system, some design parameters to consider when choosing an interior wall system are its framing and components. So you've got the material finish versus the components there. You'll notice the detail on the right. showing the top edge trim, your panel fastener, as I move from top to bottom, underneath the ceiling, your shimming of the panels, your panel system, your wall fastener, a horizontal reveal. Panels can be utilized with or without reveals, flush mounting them, a lot of different options in terms of the extrusions that are available for these reveals, as well as the different clip systems that go with them. So a lot of different ways to finish out your wall. Currently looking at the image that I came across from another panel manufacturer that did execute this as a feature wall. So when looking at the two main components there, does form follow function, or does function follow form? It was a phrase that was coined by the late Louis Sullivan in 1896. If you ever look at the article called "The Tall Office Building Artistically Considered," the phrase was actually "form ever follows function," and was based on the Roman ideas of Vitruvius of architecture being solid, useful, as well as beautiful. Since then, there's been several other writings that followed in history on the subject based on the ideas, what I would call a stronghold in the profession and discipline. So the statement essentially became the mantra of modernism. But is this still an appropriate way to think about architecture and design? We'll look at some more of the exterior framing components. Are these elements going to be decorative? Are they desired for the framing of the walls? As I mentioned, some of the most common things to consider when looking at your design parameters is choosing an interior wall system and its framing components. The framing system, which will hold the panels to the wall, and the panel selection, where, as you see, a lot of images have been of stone there. The composition of the materials, whether a GFRC or a laminate panel system, is going to depend on the use of what it's being mounted on. So there are many different options to choose from: HPL, cementitious, drywall finish with plaster, decorative woods, or other tile applications as well. There's just a lot to look at when considering these framing applications. As we saw, a bunch of your mounting options for the exterior framing. Go back here, skip forward a couple slides, getting ahead of myself here. So what we've got is a rail type system with the use of a Kyle or a Fisher, as well as a rail and bracket that are typically found on exterior wall applications for hidden connections, or hat and J configurations for exposed fastening situations, are typically thicker in projection due to their depth. They take up much more of the occupiable space for interior use, depending on the design situation. So the framing system that you're choosing versus what it is you want to hold may sometimes differ. If you're looking to use it as a decorative element, it's a lot more common. For utilizing a system of clips that are mechanically attached to the substrate and to the panel, you can utilize a system of clips that are mechanically attached to the substrate and a Z hanging clip hung onto the metal panel, while utilizing a system of snaps or French cleats, or as well as permanent adhesive that sticks to the panel system, is a common application utilized in interior wall lining. This also allows the wall system to hang or attach to the appropriate substructure at a much closer dimension, saving a lot of that precious interior space. And another thing not to forget is the wide availability of shapes and projections of the trim systems that are utilized. A lot of the materials that are utilized in the manufacturing process of aluminum, you can utilize 18% post-consumer scrap and 57% post-industrial scrap in the process, which leads to additional sustainability or LEED version 4 points if you're trying to achieve LEED credits for your project there. We'll notice some of the trim pieces that we'll look at in the next few slides to understand about how these particular parts are integrated into the systems. The exposed material of choice is yours, dependent upon the sustainability, security, and decorative nature of the material that you're trying to use. Virtually any modular material that's up to 3/4 of an inch can be utilized. Although some manufacturers do not allow for alternate material choice systems, it leaves the design up to the architect to provide a host of options to choose from and not having the client locked into a specific type of finish material with fixed dimensions. A lot of panel choices, along with framing systems, allow you to have narrow, recessed reveal channels that accommodate thicknesses from 3/8 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch in one system, and are compatible also with zero tolerance, with zero clearance, or access panel configurations. Custom panel fabrications have the flexibility to manufacture their own wall panels and then choose from a variety of lightweight aluminum framing options. When considering your finish options, a lot of different things to go through. HPL is a great product, high pressure laminate panels, wood paneling, acoustic panels, or even PVC or plastic panels. Lastly, we've got composite panels that are on there. High pressure laminate panels are a good option. Wood paneling systems, you've got a lot of different options there, from shiplap to beadboard. These wood options provide automatic insulation to the room, great for dampening sound. You get a nice warmth and texture to the wood paneling systems. There's metal panel systems that are out there that are mentioned, whether it's composite, PVC, that give you the warmth and feel of a wood paneling system without having to actually use a wood product. So a lot of nice options there. Or acoustic panels that are mentioned there. One of the best ways to help the sound in your room is to eliminate any echo, reverberation, and reduce any overall noise that's in the room. Common noise issues are caused mostly by sound waves reflecting off of hard surfaces. So a lot of different acoustically tuned partitions, fabric wrapped sound clouds within rooms, your choice of furniture within the room, from your tables, chairs, cabinet fixtures, wall pieces, wall selections, all have a intrinsic part to play when you're acoustically tuning a room. Utilizing the PVC and plastic panels as well, and composite panels give you a wide variety of finish options within your interior spaces. We'll look at some more considerations of the finish material. Looking at the substructure of the main rail, your rail trim base, rail trim cap, hanging standard there, utilizing the VHB tape, which does a really nice job of adhering a mix of surfaces to that tape. I've worked with that a couple times to learn of the longevity of the material and its versatility in applications. So when utilizing that VHB tape, 3M has a nice product for it. There's a handful of alternatives that are out there. I've read of silver tape being one of them. Great replacement for 3M's VHB tape. Great way for providing a smooth, durable adhesive to have your panel system stick to there. So looking to the durability, sustainability, eco-friendly materials that are tested to both your ASTM or EN standards, helps to note low emitting materials can be selected, as well as lead or well-billed contributors for your panel selections. Main thing is make sure that your chosen material is testable. Is there an ASTM standard? Do you need EM certification with that? These material types can designate which systems work best. So how are you going to take into account for these standards in your project designs? When I think of the interior finishes, I think of them like icing on a cake for your chosen design scheme. And just like certain flavors of icing go well with certain type of cakes, certain design elements work better with certain features. What is the design style of your interior? Is it minimalist design, or are you on the other side of the spectrum going for an Art Deco scheme? What era is your interior design from? Have you considered the colors and patterns to meet that era to complement the style and the function of the design? Some additional considerations we'll take a look at. Fundermax has a nice system for the compact laminate product there. With these laminate examples, you'll notice high design flexibility, impact and scratch resistance. Again, going back to thinking about the space that we're designing. Is it a educational space? Is it going to get a lot of foot traffic in there? We'll touch on these points in a few more slides there, but do the panels need to be double-sided to see it on both sides of your partition? Is that going to help with the budget? So variety of different panel systems. Some are used to deflect heat. There may be mechanical unit that's generating a lot of heat. Does that need to be taken into consideration when designing your building? If so, can a honeycomb composite or translucent option be considered? Some honeycomb panel systems have a mirrored finish, do a really nice job of reflecting heat back into the space, and so it can be exhausted properly. What type of building use is it going into? The difference is giving the power again to the architect designing, and if he wants a specialized hanging system, there's certainly the options out there to accommodate his need. Since honeycomb panels are slowly gaining in popularity in the United States, what are the limitations of these systems? Have we learned what questions needed to be asked to the clients about these spaces to minimize these concerns to the client? Variety of panel manufacturers. Abbott Laminati found that they've been considered the world leader in the production of decorative laminate panel systems. Metalito, another sandwich panel produced utilizing aluminum honeycomb technology, normally used in the nautical and railway sector for the production of furniture, partitions, ceilings, and floors. Acicor, another sandwich panel that's made of an aluminum honeycomb core and 2 external raw aluminum skins, showing the panel systems that are suitable for all applications, being lightweight, having mechanical properties for reflecting heat sources, and reducing that flame and smoke spread. Diaphos is another ideal solution for those who want to experiment with matter and light. With 3-dimension, it allows that light to pass through without giving a transparent effect, implementing on the contrary uses of the colors that are available through Diaphos as well. I mentioned acoustics was a big part of the selection in the materials and use of the materials and what you're going to be selecting. Since this echo versus reverberation rate can be very confusing, as the concepts are very similar, the only difference is reflection time. Where reverb has a very short reflection time, echoes are much longer, as you can see in the sound waves that are projected on the screen there. Hence, when you hear a reverb as a smaller space, like showing that versus a much larger space that are needed for having an echoic sound there. So if you're designing a room, you do not want to design the room that is similar. Have you ever been in a room where you haven't been able to think that noise that's in there is so echoic? Or if you're in the Midwest, if you go into a room after a really windy day and that reverberation is causing issues of the sound inside of it there. No one wants to hear neighbors arguing or have employees blame low productivity on the talkative person in the office next door. Sound transmission ratings are a critical measure for building product materials and the selections of these materials. As I mentioned, it's one of the most common parameters to consider when choosing an interior wall system and its framing components. This STC, or sound transmission class, as I'll read the definition, a single number rating calculated in accordance with classification E413 using values of sound transmission loss. It provides an estimate of the sound reduction provided by an assembly tested in a laboratory. So when looking at your variety of different spaces, there's some nice calculators online that allow you to plug into the variety of materials that are being chosen into a formula. These sections are addressed in the International Building Code and specifically address the sound isolation of common interior walls, partitions, and your floor ceiling assemblies. These are used to separate dwellings from one another in multiple family buildings while providing separate dwellings from public or service areas. The code specifies that such assemblies shall have a sound transmission class of not less than 50 if field tested in accordance with the ASTM E90. A lot of design professionals have generally interpreted the field tested quantity to mean an apparent sound transmission class as defined in the ASTM E336. It's also important to note that the code specifies that floor to ceiling assemblies are used to separate dwellings have an impact insulation class rating of not less than 50 as well, while having an acoustical consulting professional get involved with the project would be necessary to quantify these numbers within a specific rating for a given room. Some of the tools that are available, as mentioned there, for these sound absorbing panels or mass loaded products are available. When utilizing denser or more mass loaded vinyl products, they're effective for controlling the effects of sound transmission in a space. They're used to deaden the areas of space to prevent unwanted reverberation as well as echo within these spaces while controlling the acoustical performance of the space. Take, for example, loud open spaces where you've got noise, voice, or other structure-borne frequencies are often exaggerated in spaces. Reversing or minimizing the effect of reverberation or echo will help for the sound control of the room. Some thicknesses of materials. You'll notice on the left there a thinner material than that on the right. Panel thicknesses of materials directly correlate to many frequencies and the total frequency reduction that plays into the NRC values that are achieved. So thinner mass equates to less effective NRC values. The mass-loaded materials available have several more advantages, including flexibility and mass, which both play an important role in achieving desired result for dampening sound between spaces. If you need to control sound, products are available in sheet good most of the time. You'll see the EPDM that's selected there, but they can also be less dense and more flexible. If you want to change the way the sound reacts, you need something that has mass and is also flexible with sound. Some of your sound attenuation considerations. Your acoustical performance values change considerably based upon the chosen material. These charts are available to identify down to the frequency level, depending on what type of sound reduction character the project demands. Most of these will combat echo and reverberation in general. Some materials that are on the market have melamine composites, others are of wool, depending on the manufacturer and dependent upon the fire resistance that's needed. However, most commonly, they will meet Class A. Class A is utilized for interior use and typically ranges in NRC, again, noise reduction coefficient, from 0.65 to 1.34 values. Some thicknesses additionally will allow for composite construction in an assembly and allow for the design of a feature wall with lining systems and other applications to be built up. These can be hidden from view and perform well with regard to sound attenuation and absorption in the many circumstances that are out there. You have to be able to look at these different materials and how they work together. We're able to do this with a wall, within a wall, utilizing metal or wood studs, utilizing mass-loaded vinyl products and drywall on top, dependent upon your finished material and your wall makeup. Take an airport, for example. When walking down any of these halls in the airport, how uncontrollable is the sound? Think to Good Morning America. When was the last time that you watched Good Morning America? You noticed a laminated glass that was utilized in that show. You see a bunch of loud people cheering on the outside, raising their hands, having fun, holding up signs, screaming out their family names, while meanwhile on the inside of Good Morning America, you couldn't hear any of that on the other side of that wall. This is resulting to your sound transmission loss and the use of the materials there, absorbing that sound on the inside and minimizing that sound transmission for the inhabitants within the building. Again, additional tools are available to designers for sound absorbing panels or mass loaded products. The use of denser or mass loaded vinyl products that are controlling the effects of sound transmission into space are often used to deaden the areas of space to prevent unwanted reverberation and echo within the spaces and help achieve that acoustical performance of the space while utilizing and taking into account the different noises from voice or other structure-borne frequencies that may be exaggerated there. We mentioned panel thicknesses that are utilized to achieve better NRC values and also minimize the effect of that reverberation and echo. Thicker mass equates to more effective NRC values. Thinner mass equates to less effective NRC values. Mass-loaded materials that are available have several more advantages, including flexibility, which both play an important part in achieving the overall desired result for dampening sound. What you see there are some resilient isolators that are shown. Resilient isolators exist because of the structure-borne sound along with their vibrations. Picture a 5-story building. Imagine the mechanical pull of the HVAC unit that's located on the 3rd floor. When this turns on, you hear a loud hum. That loud hum is from the structure-borne sound that's taking place throughout the building. The reason you're hearing this is because the sound is moving through the floor joist, through the wall, and into the ceiling. Many times these isolators that are shown here help reduce this translation of the sound. Some of the most common design parameters consider, as I mentioned, when choosing interior wall system and its framing components, will assist when utilizing these sound isolators. When more challenging wall designs require the skin of the feature wall to be isolated from the structure, which helps decouple it from the structure, could be an option, or floating the wall panel system above the substrate to help provide better separation You have the opportunity here to insulate or place sound treatment onto or behind the panel material, providing more area without compromising the strength of the framing system or supporting of the interior wall panel system. These resilient sound isolators are separate from the sound of the interior wall framing or the structure of the building, and also known as resilient isolator caps. To distinguish and contribute, there's a lot of different design decisions that you can go through. Think about the different materials that are being utilized here based upon the program needs for the client and the space. Notice the different shapes, materials. We've got glazing that's highlighted there with the structures around it, swinging door systems, variety of geometric shapes there, highlighting the design. Looking to the right, utilizing a nice use of artificial as well as natural light to highlight the interior spaces there. Again, additional panel systems that have reveal joints in the panels, further highlighting the color and vibrance of the light that's around them. What we're looking at is a shopping center actually in Roncadale, Italy. They chose these materials specifically based upon the program needs for the client and the space that they had available. So distinguish and contribute. Our choices can be considered the culmination of two independent systems, your framing and finish materials. These are going to help inform our decision making regarding our program choices that are available. What needs to be considered with the specific wall you're designing? Will fire code be considered? What are your program rules? Are you designing for a high school, a library? Is it going to be a military base? These program needs will help determine what design choices are available and help you distinguish between the design choices to ensure that your interior that's chosen fits the need. So we'll look to the first of the two shots I just showed you here. Nothing going on with an exterior. Although the materials may be able to be used on the exterior, the characteristics are going to be very different. We'll look at a couple different interior wall systems and how our design choices can affect the overall impact, character, and performance of these spaces. While mentioning considering the client, what's the type of project that we're looking at here? Up on the screen currently, we have a library there. What type of budget does this library system have? Is there any toleration for risk here? When designing an educational space here, what's the acceptable budget? Can we get a little bit more fancy with the use of the locker rooms, the flooring system, and the wood trim that's around the lockers there? All walls are not created equally. So why not consider flexible systems that achieve the majority of the goals you're trying to work towards, while considering strength, longevity, and safety for the building occupants. Hospital corridors, libraries, schools, corporate interiors, education buildings, as well as galleries and public spaces, all have inherently different and unique characteristics that require unique attention and thought to achieve the best possible results while meeting the building code. Will you be able to use combustible materials in these spaces? Does it need to be Class A fire rated? How much smoke is this product going to provide when it burns? Another thing to look at the ASTMs to help make a decision here. Panel considerations are not only about the face of the panel. You have considerations and selections to make about the panel finishing as well. We'll examine the benefits of interior wall systems. combining the efforts of both consideration for appropriate framing and panel selection altogether. Preferably, both systems work together to achieve the best result for your projects. For example, responsibly sourcing panel systems and framing systems components could contribute to the sustainability of your project. By using sustainability manufacturing efforts, all while contributing to healthier environments while reducing the carbon footprint. A lot of these manufacturers seen here are located in the United Kingdom, are exploring as well as producing carbon neutral panel systems that can be incorporated into projects to gain an even greater impact on the built environment. Is it an auto dealership? How are these different environments being considered for each of the unique designs that are being incorporated? We've got a laboratory that we've seen versus the Porsche dealership that's below there. There's no reveal or edge trim being utilized. It actually appears to be a demountable wall system there, as we learned about earlier, where there's no reveal or edge trim being utilized. Again, the hospital that we viewed, no reveal or edge trim in that area as contamination was being considered. They desired that to be that way. These selections were made specifically for the program that was being designed towards. Interior walls can also completely transform the look of your room. How do we meet the design's wants and needs while keeping the attachment method in mind? We'll look at this public setting here. Difficult area to keep clean in an airport. Everything needs to be maintained here. There's nothing hanging off of a wall to catch a piece of clothing. You'll see the maintainability of the public arena and how simple it is to keep clean. With the tremendous amount of foot traffic, you're having scuff marks and chemical resistant materials are essential here for keeping that clean. By considering these environments we're designing towards the location and the construction, detailing these areas that have high traffic on a consistent basis really provides the opportunity to take advantage of the ability to reduce the amount of exposed construction while providing the smooth surfaces that are easily cleaned, maintained, durable, long-lasting, scratch-resistant, and stable. I think it's worth pointing out that the color choices that were utilized in those pictures as well on the interior panel system and that restroom allows for fewer electric lights above the reflectance as well. With the reflectance of the floor and the lighter gray colors there, you've got an adequate amount of lumens in those lighting systems to get that reflective property as well. So looking into your lighting, everything comes into play here when these spaces are truly being considered, and the multitude of options that are available for your wall systems to incorporate lighting and ensure that your program goals are met for the individual projects. Some more distinguishers. These are some of the items that may be typically found in the marketplace. What we see here is pretty common, but some manufacturers enable you to enhance these details dramatically. By considering these environments that are being designed, the location and the construction will help to detail these areas that have high traffic on a consistent basis. Look to the soft edges there on your educational facilities. Panel considerations are not the only part to consider, but your panel joinery and trims that are utilized there. These are going to help make the selections for how you want to trim out your building. What is the feel for the building? What is the look for the building you're trying to achieve? Do you want those hard lines, or are you looking for a little bit softer edges to come into play? I think it's worth pointing out here that by considering the different type of trim systems that are available. Your choices of panel systems that go along with these are often resilient as well and give you a lot to choose between. As for sustainability, we'll look to the raw materials and its primary products there. If a material that's being tracked from its organic state to being transported to how the manufacturer chemically puts it together is being tracked again until it hits the landfill, if you can fully document once it's constructed from where it was created to where it's going into the grave and follow that idea of responsibility and recycling, it's a very expensive thing to utilize cradle to the grave products here. So when focusing on sustainability of the materials, when having compliance with LEED version 4 in your well building systems, it helps keep a good idea of your documentation and transparency that allows for the evaluation, traceability of the product or the system to have this cradle to the grave mindset. Not all system and manufacturers worldwide use the same metrics. And with so many different classification systems presently available to meet code than others, there's a lot to look into and a lot that can be thought about when distinguishing between your materials. Think about where you get your materials from. Are they sustainable? Are they recyclable? As an architect, transparency is required to know what materials have been selected for use. Ensure that your materials will not be chosen. Ensure transparency, documentation, and have a compliant LEED product. In summary, interior wall partitions and their common uses were heavily focused upon. We discussed many of the constraints, their structural capabilities, and application methods, what needs to be thought about, and the multitude of questions that can be asked about choosing your interior wall system and its framing components. What is being designed? Are you designing it great so that it lasts? Why spend the extra money on a space that doesn't require the extra material? Make sure you design choices that impact the character and performance of the building in itself. I want to thank you guys for joining Bo and the Monarch team today. It was a great having you along. Really impressed with the attendance that Bo was able to put together today. This does conclude the AIA continuing education presentation. If I can ever be of support on Monarch Metal Materials, let me help you navigate the panel, finish, and substructure world. I can coordinate the meetings and further educate your team. If it's an educational opportunity you're looking for in your respective office, let me provide you with the answers to the questions that are open and that you're searching for, and bring me along to a additional meeting to get back into your office to talk about more what Monarch has to offer. So again, I do want to thank you guys for spending your time with me and getting a little bit more familiar with the common applications for interior materials. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brent. That was a great presentation. It looks like there were some questions that did become answered already. So we'll give folks a few more moments. If you've got any questions that come up, feel free to submit those through the Q&A. While we wait to see if there are any additional questions, I'm going to do a quick recap of our introduction at the beginning in case you joined a bit later and missed it. So just want to let folks know some resources for them after today's webinar. If you would like to explore some more about Monarch, get in touch with their team directly, coordinate a lunch and learn for your firm, or just discuss a project, learn some more about what they have to offer, you can head over to their page on Acelab. We also shared a link to this in the chat, so you can grab that link directly. This is a great place to come and get in touch with their team, learn some more about their company and their products, save these to your projects for future reference. So feel free to use this page as you see fit and as you need. Last thing I want to mention is We will be providing certificates through the Acelab Messenger. You'll get an email when that certificate is delivered, but you can also check acelabusa.com and head to this icon on top right. That'll be a great place to go back and discuss any follow-up questions that you might have with the Monarch team as well. So we'll connect you directly with their team there. All right. That's it for me. Last thing is I want to mention we do have a quick post-event survey. So if you've got any questions that come up after you leave today's event, feel free to drop them in that survey as well. It does look like there was one question that I think would be great to just kind of read the answer to out loud. So Mimi asked, how do your products perform in saltwater environments? And does the attachment design need to be modified for in hurricane-prone areas? So Aaron, it looks like you did respond to that. Do you want to talk a little bit about how your products perform in those areas so everyone else can hear as well?
Sure, I can chime in. So we do make a plethora of products for interior and exterior use. And specifically in exterior use, we have a few different options that are really good for saltwater conditions, high exposures conditions, or for the most material compatibility. So we offer a 304 and 316 stainless clip and rail cladding system. But we also have extruded aluminum systems in 6061 and 6063. 6063 is a little bit better for more corrosive environments, but we do have options. And for hurricane prone areas, it's just like anywhere. It's going to require project specific engineering, potentially some testing, mock-ups to really ensure that it's going to do the trick. But we've not encountered too many situations where we couldn't find a solution for someone.
Awesome. Great. Well, it looks like all the other responses I'm seeing here are just thank yous, folks saying it was a really informative webinar. So looks like one more actually just came in. Are your products available in Canada? And do you have a Canadian specific contact?
We do have, our products are available in Canada. I'm not sure who our Canadian contact is between Jared and Brent right now, so I'll let those guys ring in.
Yep, just depends on the job, where it is, and what it involves. But yeah, we would ship it out of one of our 2 to 3 warehouses.
Awesome. All right, great. So the answer there is yes. And yeah, feel free to reach out to the Monarch team in general to get you in touch with the right person. Okay, awesome. Well, before we jump off today, just want to thank everyone so much for coming out for today's webinar. Feel free to grab any of those links from the chat that you might need before you jump off for the day. And thank you, Brent, Jared, and Aaron for a great presentation.
Appreciate it, Bo. Appreciate you having us together with you guys today.
Yep. All right, everyone have a great rest of their Wednesday.
Thanks, Bo.